Right, rhinoceros?
Right, babe.
I think we've all seen that couple that just seems to coordinate without meaning to and finish each other's sentences and finish each other's meals, and it's just sickening.
Where you headed?
Mind if we come with?
Ryan and Mary have this agenda where they need to have somebody else around so that they have somebody else to deflect all their weird tension onto, you know? And he becomes that guy for us, our third wheel.
I think we've all been on one side of the equation of the third wheel. We've all either been in a couple that's had someone, a friend that's tagged along with us, or we've been the tag along. And I wanted to take that dynamic and just blow it out to its illogical extreme.
Leslie is, well, she's the girl that Scott sort of meets and is interested in, but Scott has this problem of falling too fast. And I feel like Leslie has the same problem. So they're sort of kindred spirits. You know, she's someone who jumps in way too fast as well, and when they meet, she's sort of in this place where she's trying really hard to not jump in. So everything she does is like, no, I don't go on dates with strangers, but then 30 seconds later, she's agreeing to a date. So everything is this push and pull of, no, I won't do that, I'm not gonna make this mistake again, and then immediately she makes the same mistake again. So Leslie and Scott are very much cut from the same cloth in that way.
As great as this date has been, I don't want to rush anything.
Me neither. She's kind of the it girl, you know, for Scott.
The relationship between Brandon's character, Scott, and Jennifer's character, Leslie, is played very real. Philosophically, the theory behind it was that we could do anything comedically we wanted with the couple and Scott, as long as we had a very real love story at the core of it that people cared about and rooted for.
With Leslie, my biggest concern was on the page, she was very much the straight girl, and she was not, you know, in a comedy, she was very not funny.
Leslie in the script didn't have this history of kind of mirroring Scott, of rushing into things. Jennifer had a lot of ideas for what to do with Leslie, and on the first day of shooting, we had a long discussion about what she wanted to do, and I said, oh yeah, great, go for it. And kind of, in a lot of ways, stayed out of her way.
He was so excited. He's like, oh, that makes it work. He's like, I always wondered why this girl would end up with Scott, you know? Like, so it kind of makes sense now that they're so cut from the same cloth and they're so similar that it would make sense that they would come together and be interested in each other.
Scott has asked Leslie out for a date, and Leslie has a policy of not going out on one-on-one dates. So Ryan and Mary have agreed to come along as chaperones, but in the meantime, they've gotten just shit-faced drunk. Ryan and Mary have been together for so long, they just don't know what's appropriate anymore.
You okay, Mary?
Oh, yeah.
They don't know what other people's boundaries are because they're so in each other's head and so in each other's lives that other people around them are kind of not there anymore.
Did we ever really talk about boundaries? I don't know. I mean, it's like you have to have some boundaries with something like this because there's scenes where she and I are like all over each other.
They're really drunk, aren't they?
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're both just the kind of actors that are just down to go for it and really, we want it to look good and we want to push the envelope.
Nobody is timid. Nobody has any shame.
I will check you later.
We've all let go of any sort of modesty we had.
How's lasagna?
Bye now.
I don't think if I had asked them to do things, they would have been as funny as the stuff they came up with on their own. You can't go wrong with Midsummer Night's Dream if you're trying to set something up as romantic. They just hit it off from the get-go, and they spent a lot of time talking to each other about what they wanted to do with the characters.
She's kind of quirky and eccentric a little bit, and I think she kind of has to be to fall for Scott because he does rush in so fast. So for a girl to kind of take to that and want to be around that, she's got to have some of her own kind of neuroses going on. And I brought some wine, and I got you beer because I know you're a beer man. So. Let's get a seat.
I think we had our most extras that day, and we had an actual Shakespeare company dressed up in costumes, and they performed kind of a dumb show version of their Midsummer Night's Dream. The art department brought in the trusses and the backdrops and all the plants and tree props. Very colorfully lit. They really outdid themselves. What we wanted to do was create a scene that felt like they were in the play. That's how we wanted the date to end, was them kind of being sucked into this magical realm of Midsummer Night's Dream. It's just an explosion of color. It's almost unreal how bright and colorful it all is. And then, of course, the couple steps in and brings things back to reality.
Hey, we're sorry!
We're sorry!
Our boy Scotty is, moving in on her. He wants to spend time with her, and that means time not spent with us, with me and Mare. So, of course, we don't like that one bit.
Hi! Leslie Green!
You could hook them up to a lie detector, and if you said, what are you trying to do, they would say, we're trying to help our friend Scott to make sure he doesn't get his heart broken.
I'm never going to make it to this.
But I think deep down in their heart of hearts, they're trying to run Leslie off so they can have this guy all to themselves. So they are subconsciously, even without meaning to, intentionally running her off.
Were you guys fighting?
I told you, we don't fight.
Not our thing, buddy.
Ryan and Mary have decided that they say they're never going to fight, then that means they're never going to fight.
Yeah, they don't fight at all, quote unquote, but really what that translates to is that they just have all these repressed issues that they don't ever deal with.
And there's just this weird simmering tension between the two of them that they won't address.
We're not into the conflict thing, Scott, but it's just that normal couples fight.
One of the things that they learn how to, do is fight.
Nice. Okay, now Mary, your rebuttal.
Shit heel.
Strumpet.
Jerk off.
Bloody fucking... Comes to blows, because they're still learning how to do it.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. I think it's clear that we both learned a lot tonight.
Sometimes they'll do more outlandish takes and Mike will rein them in if need be, just so he has the range. Because, you never know with characters like that. Sometimes it can be too much. You get to the end of the film and they've been this big the whole time. You have to have levels.
They've got this thing where they'll say, if you want to drop it, we'll drop it.
Like a bad habit.
Like a hot potato.
Like an atom bomb.
Like a prom dress.
Like a...
And they have this way of, creating an almost rhythmic pattern that's, needling someone.
Even from the first day that she and I met, it was very easy to have this constant back and forth and be always on the same page and always this weird sort of teamwork, cooperative. We're always like this onslaught on Brandon's character, Scott.
Jesus, you guys hungry or something?
Oh, I don't know, Scott. Maybe we're just being weird. If I notice myself enunciating more and, obviously gesticulating with my hands a lot, because she does that. I was just in the process of hanging up the phone, making sure you'd picked up the call and that it was connecting.
There's not a moment of performance from those two that I thought, boy, I wish they'd go all the way with this, because they were on 10 the entire time. The rooftop birthday party was one of my favorite scenes in the movie because it's where Scott finally starts to crack.
Who planned this?
That would be us!
This is the culmination of the last 3 times he's tried to be with Leslie, and every time he tries to be with Leslie, Ryan and Mary are doing something to mess it up. In the script, I had written basically the equivalent of they dance, and I came to them a couple weeks before we shot that scene and said, this is a real opportunity to have some fun, so if you guys want to, go for it, please feel free to go for it.
We pulled out some stops. We pulled out a little boogaloo. We pulled out some kid and play. It was basically really bad dancing on a very inappropriate level was what we were going for.
Holy shit, he really does live with them. I thought you were kidding.
Honey, you promised, remember?
Ted and Narissa were created to be a more urbane couple. They're more cool and hip. That gives Ted that opportunity to come from that more jaded perspective of, you need to open your eyes and see what's going on here.
Okay, I'm not even going to tell you what I had to promise Ted to get him here.
Lisa, who plays Narissa, and Jennifer spent a lot of time off camera kind of developing a camaraderie.
Oh, speaking of which, what's going on with that one?
Yeah, that's the thing. Scott asked me to move in with him.
Jeez, he doesn't waste any time.
Then she realizes from the look on my face that I'm considering it, and she's like, no, not again, and I'm like, well, I'm going to wait. She's like, how long? I'm like, a week. She's like, oh, great, a week.
Oh, that was some party. She's able to, for the most part, deal with Ryan and Mary, although there comes a sticking point with them when Ryan and Mary and Scott have a little bit of a fight.
With cake and semi-nakedness and debauchery and kitchen tools.
We have a fight, essentially a big fight in cake. For your own good. And it was kind of difficult.
We shot this massive scene that was only, 3 little lines of description in the script. Yet we created all of this insanity.
Eat ass cake, bitch!
I was covered from head to toe in cake. My whole wardrobe and my socks were wet, and it was I really couldn't even walk away from ground zero of the mess. So I'm standing in the middle of the room for 2 hours because it's better than tracking the mess out into the world.
And they'd been doing this for hours, and I'd been down in my trailer because I just walk in at the end of it. And so by the time I got up there, they're all covered in cake, and Sophia's shirt's off, and there's cake all over. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed all this.